begin with, why all the lies? Roger Stone is only the most recently accused, among Trump's old friends and advisors, of lying to investigators in Robert Mueller's 34 criminal indictments. Trump's presidential campaign manager, Paul Manafort, is another. He's one of the 7 Trump associates who have been convicted of crimes, as is Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen, who also implicated Trump in 2 election expense felonies committed after he became president. Many of those convicted, including Trump's former national security advisor, Michael Flynn, specifically lied about their contacts with the Russian government or Russian government-connected people. All of that, and what it might tell us about the Trump campaign and presidency, cannot be boiled down to a 3.5-page letter from the Attorney General, William Boag. And yet, since it landed Sunday, that thin letter has been repeatedly and falsely described by some as the Mueller report.
The Mueller report was great. It could not have been better. It said no obstruction, no collusion. It could not have been better.
Most of what the president said there is at best misleading. First, he doesn't know what's in the Mueller report because he hasn't seen it. He's seen only Barr's brief letter describing it. Second, Barr's letter says Mueller did find evidence of obstruction of justice but did not draw a conclusion one way or another. It quotes Mueller that his report does not conclude the president committed a crime. It also does not exonerate him. Third, the word collusion doesn't appear anywhere in Barr's letter. What the letter does say is that Mueller's investigation did not establish that members of the Trump campaign conspired or coordinated with the Russian government, despite multiple offers from Russian-affiliated individuals to assist the Trump campaign. That last part indicates that the Russians were offering help to the Trump campaign repeatedly, and not just at the well-known Trump Tower meeting arranged by Donald Trump Jr. In any case, the Trump campaign denied it all.
She doesn't know if it's the Russians doing the hacking. Maybe there is no hacking, but they always blame Russia.
If you're out there, the Trump campaign's out there saying there is no attack, and you're the Kremlin, you're attacking, but saying publicly, of course, you're not attacking, you have to look at the Trump people as being on your side. They're running interference for you.
David Corn is an MSNBC contributor and the co-author of Russian Roulette, a book that brings some order and insights to the Russian interference in the 2016 election.
To me, the real story that I think has been somewhat put to the side was why and how the Trump campaign aided and abetted the attack by denying it was happening and basically setting them, if not direct, certainly indirect signals that the campaign, the Trump campaign and Trump himself, had no problem with the Russians doing this.
Trump became the Republican nominee in July 2016. That meant he was entitled to classified security and intelligence information. In his first briefing, he was told that the Russians appeared to be behind the hacking of Democratic Party servers and theft of emails. The Trump campaign and the Trump family already knew about Russian efforts to help them from their June meeting at Trump Tower, but they seem not to have shared any of that with the intelligence community.
She has no idea whether it's Russia, China, or anybody else.
I am not quoting myself.
No idea.
I am quoting
Hillary, you have no idea.
That's why I think it's one of the greatest, or if not the greatest, political scandal in American history. And instead, Trump was able to get everybody to focus on the very limited question of whether there was direct collusion or not.
And criminality.
And criminality, that's what he kind of meant. No collusion, no crimes. And he tried to make that the only standard, whether you could nail him in a criminal case of conspiracy.
And then there's the question of obstruction of justice, about which the Mueller report makes no decision. No decision respects Justice Department guidelines that say a sitting president can't be indicted anyway. Nevertheless, Attorney General Barr does make a decision. Along with his deputy, he finds that there isn't sufficient evidence to support a prosecution, even though no such prosecution is allowable. It is a decision with tremendous political value for the president.
You know, I think people are right to look at the whole Barr scenario and have serious questions about it.
The Barr scenario refers to this lengthy memo to the Justice Department Barr wrote months before he was appointed Attorney General. He argued against what he thought might be Mueller's theory of obstruction in the Trump case. Mueller should not be permitted to demand that the president submit to interrogation about alleged obstruction, he said. And Mueller's obstruction theory is fatally misconceived. The memo wound up in the hands of Trump's legal team. In the course of the following months, Trump fired Attorney General Jeff Sessions, who'd recused himself from managing the Russia investigation, and replaced him with Barr, who took charge of it.
It's not good to have a guy handpicked by the president who essentially auditioned for the job by telling the president, I don't believe in obstruction of justice in terms of presidential target, who then gets to make that decision, still on the basis of secret evidence.
Asserting a murky case of obstruction against President Trump could have profound and lasting implications for the office of the presidency. It's not a light decision, but it is also impossible to judge without the evidence. In any case, Republicans seem inclined to accept Barr's letter as the definitive word from Mueller and to move on to beginning an investigation of Democrats and the justice system to see whether they can establish that the real scandal is in how all this began in the first place. Keith Boag, CBC News, Washington.